This is the unbelievable story of how the Ford Motor Company shocked the world during World War II. A story of engineers who claimed that producing a car and producing a bomber were two completely different things. A story of experts who insisted it could not be done. And a story of an American automobile factory that proved everyone wrong by building one fully operational B-24 Liberator bomber every single hour. Welcome to the story of Willow Run, the factory that changed industrial history forever. Narration. When World War II erupted, the United States suddenly faced a challenge unlike anything in its industrial history. The nation needed planes, thousands of them, fast, heavy, long-range bombers capable of destroying enemy factories, sinking warships, and supporting ground forces. But in 1941, America was not ready. Airplane factories were slow, small, and built almost entirely by hand. The B-24 Liberator was one of the most complex machines ever designed. It had over 1 million individual parts. The plane required precise engineering, riveted aluminum skin, complex hydraulics, heavy engines, and advanced navigation systems. Aircraft builders insisted that only trained aviation specialists could build something like the B-24. They argued that automobile companies, which produced simple consumer machines using assembly lines, could never switch to such advanced aviation technology. But then came Henry Ford and his massive industrial empire. Ford believed the experts were wrong. He believed that large-scale automotive assembly line techniques could be adapted for aircraft construction. When the government asked for help, he did not hesitate. Ford agreed to build B-24 bombers at a factory so large and so advanced that it would become the single greatest manufacturing facility of the entire war. This factory was Willow Run. However, there was a problem. Ford had never built aircraft before. The company's experience was cars, trucks, tractors, and engines. Aviation engineers warned that Ford would fail. Some aviation officials even mocked the idea, believing Ford would never understand the precise tolerances needed for flight. Building cars, they said, was child's play compared to the demands of warplanes. But the leadership at Ford accepted the challenge. They decided they would apply automobile mass production logic to something no one had ever tried. Instead of building planes from start to finish in one spot, they would break down the process into hundreds of small steps. Each step would be done by trained workers using specialized machines. It was the exact same method Henry Ford had used to build millions of Model Ts. Construction of the Willow Run plant began in 1941. It was enormous. The factory floor stretched for nearly 1 mile. The facility had its own power station, its own airport, a massive rail yard, and enough square footage to fit an entire town inside. At the time, Willow Run was the largest factory building on Earth. Inside the plant, workers moved through a carefully designed system of assembly lines. Raw aluminum sheets entered one end of the factory. At the other end, complete 4-engine bombers rolled out ready for combat. But in the beginning, things did not go smoothly. Ford's early attempts were slow and frustrating. Workers had trouble adjusting to the new style of precision aviation manufacturing. Many early aircraft were rejected by the military. Critics laughed, and aviation experts claimed they had been right all along. They said Ford had wasted time, money, and manpower on a dream that would never work. But Ford engineers refused to accept defeat. They reworked the production layout, redesigned the workflow, introduced new tools, trained workers more effectively, and perfected a system where dozens of major assemblies could be built all at the same time. Wings, fuselages, tail sections, engine mounts, bomb bays, and control surfaces were all produced separately and then brought together at the final assembly line. Piece by piece, Willow Run began to change the rules of aircraft production. Instead of building one bomber in several months, the Ford system aimed for 1 per day, then 1 per shift, and finally 1 per hour. By 1943, Willow Run had become a masterpiece of industrial engineering. Thousands of workers, men and women, farmers from nearby towns, former auto workers, and new recruits all moved through the factory in synchronized precision. The sound of riveting guns echoed across the massive hangars. Conveyor belts whirred overhead. The scent of oil, steel, aluminum, and fuel filled the air. Every person had a single task, one job done perfectly thousands of times. That was the power of mass production. And slowly, the impossible goal became reality. On peak days, Willow Run produced a completed B-24 every 55 minutes. No aircraft factory in the world had ever achieved anything like it. The Germans were stunned. The British were amazed. Even the American military could hardly believe the production numbers. Ford did not just meet expectations, he destroyed them. Ford built nearly 9,000 B-24 Liberators at Willow Run alone. Combined with production at other facilities, more than 18,000 B-24s were built in total, making it the most produced bomber in aviation history. The B-24 was a crucial weapon of the war. It flew long-range missions across Europe, the Pacific, North Africa, and the Atlantic. It hunted submarines, bombed enemy factories, and delivered critical supplies. Millions of tons of bombs were dropped by aircraft that passed through the Willow Run assembly line. Ford's success helped overwhelm Axis industry with sheer numerical superiority. No matter how advanced German aircraft were, they could not match the production capacity of the United States. And no American factory symbolized this better than Willow Run. What made Ford's accomplishment even more impressive was that he proved something fundamental about industrial manufacturing. He showed that with the right engineering, proper planning, and mass production techniques, you could take even the most complex machine in the world and build it using assembly line logic. Ford proved that experts were wrong when they said aircraft were too complicated for automotive factories. He showed that with enough determination, innovation, and organization, the impossible could become possible. As the war progressed, Ford's plant became legendary. Tour groups came to witness the bombers rolling out one by one like clockwork. Magazine articles declared Willow Run the eighth wonder of the world. Reporters were stunned at the speed, scale, and precision of the operation. Even the aviation engineers who once doubted Ford admitted that they had never seen anything like it. When the war ended, the lessons of Willow Run shaped future aircraft production. The idea of mass manufacturing complex machines became standard in American industry. Ford's success helped pioneer the age of industrial mega factories and forever changed how nations prepared for large-scale conflict. Conclusion. In the end, this story is not just about airplanes and factories. It is a story about challenging assumptions, a story about innovation in times of crisis, and a story about ordinary people building extraordinary machines. The experts insisted that cars and bombers were completely different, but Ford proved that determination, creativity, and industrial engineering could bring the impossible to life. In a world at war, Willow Run became a symbol of American strength. And at its peak, it turned out one bomber every single hour.